She was a devoted mother to her children. She was deeply religious, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But beneath that shiny surface, Lori's religious fervor was taking a dark and obsessive turn. Lori became fixated on a subculture within her faith, apocalyptic prepping, and fringe doctrines. She started following podcasters and authors who spoke of zombies, not the Hollywood kind, but a belief that a person's body could be taken over by an evil spirit, rendering the original person gone. The only solution? The zombie had to die to free the spirit. It sounds like insane fiction, but Lori started to believe it, wholly. And then she met him, Chad Daybell, a prolific author of cheap doomsday fiction novels within the LDS fringe community. Chad didn't just write about the end of the world, he claimed he had visions. He told Lori she was a translated being, a divine goddess sent to help him gather the 144,000 elect before the apocalypse. He told her they had been married in past lives. This was the validation, the twisted destiny she had been craving. Their connection was instant and cataclysmic, because in their new shared mythology, the people closest to them suddenly had dark spirits assigned to them. They began rating people around them on a scale of light and dark, and some were labeled as zombies. The first to fall under this label was Lori's husband, Charles Vallow. In Lori and Chad's eyes, he was no longer Charles. He was a zombie, an obstacle. In July 2019, during a confrontation, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot and killed Charles. Alex claimed self-defense. Police, with no evidence to the contrary at the time, bought it. Just weeks before, Charles had filed for divorce, writing in fear to Lori's family that she believed she was a goddess and that he was in danger. His death freed Lori. She collected his life insurance, and with her children, 17-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ, she moved to Idaho to be closer to Chad, a man who, by the way, was still married to his wife, Tammy. But the purge of dark spirits wasn't over. In this new, twisted chapter, the threats were coming from inside the house. To Lori and Chad, Tylee, a vibrant, sometimes rebellious teenager, began to be seen as a problem. She was strong-willed, she questioned things, and JJ, her sweet autistic son who required constant care, was now a burden to their new, secretive, apocalyptic lifestyle. According to their warped beliefs, these children were no longer their children. They were vessels for dark spirits. They had become zombies. The vanishings happened quietly, under the radar of a world distracted by a global pandemic. Tylee Ryan was last seen alive on September 8, 2019, on a trip to Yellowstone National Park with Lori, JJ, and Alex Cox. There's a photo of her that day, looking sullen. She would never be seen in public again. Lori would later tell friends Tylee was away at college. JJ Vallow was last seen alive on September 23, 2019. That day, Lori Vallow showed up at his school, withdrew him, and told them she was going to homeschool him. He vanished. When concerned family, especially JJ's biological grandparents, demanded proof of life, Lori gave ever-changing, bizarre stories. He was with a friend. He was in hiding. The lies were piling up. Meanwhile, Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, a seemingly healthy woman, died in her sleep on October 19, 2019. Chad told the coroner it was of natural causes. He declined an autopsy. Just 2 weeks later, Chad and Lori were married on a beach in Hawaii. They looked blissful, but where were the children? Lori and Chad abruptly fled to Hawaii, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. Part 3. Unearthing the Horror. Back in Idaho, investigators were digging. They obtained search warrants for Chad's property in Rexburg. On June 9, 2020, in a gruesome scene that would shock the nation, they found human remains buried in 2 separate locations on Chad's land. Near a fire pit, they found the charred, dismembered remains of 16-year-old Tylee Ryan. In a pet cemetery, wrapped in garbage bags and duct tape, they found the body of 7-year-old J.J. Vallow. The cause of death? Tylee had been shot and dismembered. J.J. had been smothered, with duct tape found over his mouth and his limbs bound. The person Lori Vallow trusted most, her brother Alex Cox, was the prime suspect in carrying out these acts. But he had died months earlier of what was ruled natural causes, though the timing remains deeply suspicious. The net closed. Lori and Chad were arrested. They were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and grand theft. The theft? They had continued to collect Social Security and survivor benefits for the children after they were killed. But the story wasn't complete. What about Tammy Daybell, Chad's first wife? With the children's bodies found on its property, her death was exhumed and re-examined. The result? Tammy Daybell did not die of natural causes. She was murdered. And Lori and Chad were charged with her murder as well. The narrative became clear. A calculated, ruthless path of elimination for anyone who stood between them and their doomsday fantasy. The trial of Lori Vallow was a spectacle that laid bare the terrifying power of belief gone wrong. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence. Texts and emails between Lori and Chad discussing zombies and multiple probations, their secret wedding weeks after Tammy's death, the financial motives, and the damning forensic evidence. But the most haunting testimony came from those who were once in their inner circle. Friends described Lori and Chad, ranking people as light or dark. They heard Chad claim he could tell if someone was a zombie. Lori herself, in a phone call from jail, was recorded saying she knew exactly where her children were and that they were happy and busy, a statement that chills to the bone. The defense tried to paint Lori as a woman led astray by a manipulative man, but the facts were too horrific. In May 2023, the jury found Lori Vallow Daybell guilty on all counts, the murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. She was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. Chad Daybell was tried separately. In May 2024, he too was found guilty on all counts, including the murder of Tammy and the conspiracy to kill the children. He now awaits a potential death penalty sentence. So, what do we make of Lori Vallow? She was not a raving lunatic on the street. She was a mother, a neighbor, a member of a community. That is what makes this case so profoundly disturbing. It shows how a foundation of faith can be hijacked by narcissism and grandiosity, twisted by the influence of a co-conspirator who mirrors your deepest desires, and weaponized into a justification for the unforgivable. Lori and Chad didn't see themselves as killers. In their minds, they were divine warriors, clearing the path for the second coming. They created a bubble of shared madness, where reality dissolved, and the ultimate act of evil was rebranded as a holy act. The victims were not just Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. The victims were truth, reason, and the most sacred bond of all, that of a parent who is supposed to protect their child at all costs. This case forces us to confront a terrifying question. What is the line between fervent belief and dangerous delusion? And how far would someone go once they've crossed it? For Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, the answer was all the way to a pet cemetery and a fire pit in their own backyard. They believed they were writing a sacred story. Instead, they authored a true crime horror story that will haunt us for decades. If this story has gripped you, as it has so many, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What aspect of their psychology is the most incomprehensible to you? And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell as we dive deep into the most complex and disturbing true crime cases.